During my first assignment in the Army as a Signal Corps platoon leader, I had the privilege of leading 59 soldiers who built a telecommunications node and a computer network in the sands of northern Kuwait. The work was challenging, the environment unforgiving, and the support from higher command utterly lacking. And so I developed a habit of offering some words of inspiration or encouragement to our soldiers at our daily shift change briefings. To be perfectly honest, sometimes it felt more like a halftime locker room speech than a shift change briefing. But it seemed to lift the soldiers' spirits, and it certainly lifted mine, so I kept at it. One afternoon, I overheard two of the soldiers chatting in the back of a truck. One was extolling the speech I had given earlier that morning, but the other replied, "Sure, he can talk nice, but what good does it do? We're still here, it still stinks, and nothing's changed." I never told those two soldiers that I overheard their discussion, but I never forgot what they said, because it taught me just how feeble words can truly be. A lesson reiterated in this week's Torah portion, Shmini, through the tragic tale of Aaron's two sons, Nadav and Avihu. The pair, both priests like their father, offer what's called a strange and alien fire before Adonai, one contrary to God's command, while performing their priestly duties. Immediately, a divine fire consumes them, leaving their father shaken by grief. Upon discovering their death, Moses tries to comfort his bereaved brother by telling him, "This is what God meant when God said, 'Through those close to me will I become holy and gain the respect of the people.'" Probably not what you should say to someone who's in grief. In response, the Torah only tells us, "Vayidom Aaron," and Aaron remained silent. The Jewish theologian Blue Greenberg suggests that Aaron responds with a profound, shattering silence, a stunning silence, a shocked silence. He doesn't justify God's cruel decree by blaming his sons and accepting their fate as punishment for their sins. Yet, neither does he rebel or protest God's actions. Instead, just total silence. Not that kind of silence. Moses responds to his brother's suffering with words that ring so hollow, so empty, that the truth becomes crystal clear. Sometimes words don't work. Even though Moses is standing right beside his brother with the very best intentions, in that moment, they're standing worlds apart. Because as Aaron's response suggests, the real sound of suffering is silence. The question is simply whether we suffer the silence alone or together. This can be a difficult lesson for us Jews. After all, our tradition holds words in high esteem. According to the Torah, the world was created with words. God spoke, and the world came to be. Meanwhile, the Talmud teaches that whoever offers charity receives 6 blessings, but those who console others with their words receive 11 blessings. And just last week on Passover, we read from our Haggadot, as each of us is commanded to tell the story of the Exodus as we celebrate Passover. Words are a fundamental component of our tradition, one that has only grown in significance throughout the millennia. For there was once a time when only the scribes or the scholars could write. Today, any of us could wish Mazel Tov and Chag Sameach via text message, or we can send birthday wishes and condolences via Facebook. We dole out yearnings for justice in 144 characters or less on Twitter. And these things do matter. They're all essential and vital messages that only words permit. And yet, as this week's parsha clearly illustrates, words can undermine even the best of intentions. As the great modern Musar teacher Alan Marinas teaches, only in silence is it possible to hear. And only once we hear can we understand and serve the very real needs that call forth for our attention, be they our loved ones, our communities, or even our own. It took me a while to understand the full significance of my soldiers' discussion in the back of that truck. It didn't mean that words are useless. After all, this would be a pretty meaningless exercise if they were. But words have their limitations, even their dangers, and they can never be a substitute for real action in a moment of need. Whether the act required is strengthening conditions for your soldiers or showing up for a loved one stricken with grief. The great Hasidic sage Rabbi Nachman of Breslov teaches, in youth, one learns to speak. In maturity, one learns to be silent. On this Shabbat, as we continue to count our people's steps from deliverance towards Sinai, I pray that you and I discover the revelation that may accompany the sound of silence. Shabbat Shalom.